All right, we are officially closing out the summer movie season here on the podcast. And back with me, as always, talk some movies. Our podcast resident film critic, the host of the Stanko Stance podcast. You can also check him out at stankostance.com. John Stanko is back with us. John, how are you?
Mike, I'm doing fantastic this evening. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'd rather be talking to you right now watching both of our choking baseball teams here down the stretch.
I literally have the Red Sox on in the background. It's a painful experience going into work in New York City every day. It is painful.
Hey, I mean, that's a little bit, at least you guys are still in shouting distance of the playoffs here. My team was in first for 90 days. It's completely fallen off the map.
Yeah, your team is completely out. At least we're still in the playoffs. And right now we're going to play the Yankees in the wild card game if that's the case, which would be utterly disastrous for my health. So I hope that doesn't stand pat, though odds are that's the only thing that's going to happen. So we just got to keep ourselves afloat.
Yeah, a phone got thrown before this call got started because Luis Rojas means my head scratching decision here, and it ended up costing the Mets immediately. So
I was on Twitter while I was waiting for you, and I saw every single Met fan I know cursing the heavens. So I'm sure it was incredibly frustrating.
It was very frustrating. Let's get something that's not frustrating here, which is the movies, because summer movie season is not as jam-packed as it usually is because of COVID. Some stuff got pushed back, but I still think there's a lot here this summer to enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. I think it depends if you're willing to pay $30 to rent a movie in these premium passes like Disney Plus, especially. But I think HBO Max had the best summer program with having the mutual in theaters release and then also on the app. And there were some good movies. There were some surprises. There were some disappointments. But overall, movies were back this summer compared to last summer when nothing new came out at all. So it's a step in the right direction.
All right. So quickly, you need the Stanko top 5 from this summer. So what were the top 5 best things you saw this summer?
Honestly, the best thing that I saw this summer was a documentary on HBO Max, Woodstock 99. And don't know if you've heard of it or have had the chance to check it out, but it's a documentary following the tales of Woodstock 99 and the utter disaster that it was and the horror movie that ensued in upstate New York. Absolutely insane stuff. One of the best documentaries I've seen in a really long time. Since I've seen Boys State, it's the best documentary since Boys State for me. Number 2, Suicide Squad, which you saw, and I know a lot of people have talked about, and I enjoyed very, very much. Was worried about James Gunn because I'm not a huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I love Suicide Squad for the most part. I thought many of the characters were excellent. Some of the characters people loved, I didn't, but I love John Cena. I thought he was incredible. I thought Idris Elba was great. Love Suicide Squad. And then I'm cheating for my third pick, Mike. I'm cheating a little bit, just a smidge. Hope you're ready for this. I'm going with the Fear Street trilogy as a whole because that's 3 movies. That would make 5 total. And this was the best surprise of the summer because I saw Fear Street trilogy coming out. I was like, oh, Netflix horror movies. I always watch them. They're always decent. These movies were legit good. And the third one was like borderline excellent. I had a phenomenal time. So I love the Fear Street movies. So those 3 are filling in my top 5 because of the surprise factor that the fact Netflix put out above par horror movie. They were actually very, very good.
Yeah, I love those movies as well. Suicide Squad, R.I.P. Polka Dot Man. I loved him. He was a fun.
Yeah, I didn't like Polka Dot Man. I didn't like Polka Dot Man. I'm the biggest detractor in that.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I thought the bit also where every villain he was just seeing his mom was just so funny.
I hated that. You could do it once, don't do it 6 times.
Yeah,
I did not like that. Me and you are just different. We have different forms of the comedy there. We just wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I like those as well. I also thought A Quiet Place Part 2 was underrated. I did enjoy that. And In the Heights was fun.
I have not seen those last 2, so I cannot comment on those.
Yeah, I think that was well. And also Black Widow came out, movie compared to some of the other stuff I saw this summer. But the big thing coming out of that was obviously the lawsuit from Scarlett Johansson suing Disney and Marvel for the fact that she said, hey, this violates my contract because you put this on Disney Plus and it cost the movie box office receipts is what I get paid on. So what do you think about that lawsuit? You think it's going to impact more stuff going on the stream aisle going forward?
Do I think it's going to impact stuff? Yes. Am I smart enough to know how exactly? No. I do think it's very interesting. You have a huge movie star versus a huge movie studio. And I don't think ScarJo is going to win this lawsuit, but I think her fighting the lawsuit is more important than her actually winning. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
she's stepping up to the man, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like she's a little bit like putting on baseball parlance, like Kurt Flood suing to get free agency with the players. He didn't actually get it, but his lawsuit set stuff up for everybody else.
Yes. Now, like I think Disney, from what I've read, like they just it was like a handshake agreement with ScarJo that they were going to release it in theaters, not on Disney Plus, because that was like the handshake agreement. It wasn't written in the contract that that would be the case. And like Disney brought up the point that they surpassed the minimum amount of theaters that were necessary to put this movie in. I think it was like 1,500 theaters was the minimum, and they got over 9,000 in the country. So Disney did put it in more than enough theaters that was written in the contract. Do I think ScarJo has the right to be pissed off? Absolutely. She lost a ton of money on this, but still, Black Widow did incredibly well compared to other movies. I already think I had bigger box office than any of the Ant-Man movies did in their opening weekends and stuff like that. So I think she has a right to be pissed, but I think this is going to set a precedent for things to change in the years going forward and the way contracts are written. But Mike, we never see the contracts that are written, right? We only kind of get a guesstimate of how much dollars each star is making, but maybe these contracts become more transparent. Maybe there's new language that's developed, but it's going to have lasting effects. And ScarJo was the first one to kind of take the gun and shoot at the big giant that is Disney, and that is major motion pictures.
Yeah, definitely a track. I feel like it's definitely something we're gonna see going forward. See sort of like these streaming clauses written into movie contracts going forward. I also think the other thing to watch here is the lingering effects of COVID on the movie industry, because obviously Delta is ripping through the country. We've seen some movies get shifted already. We saw Venom get pushed back by Sony. There's rumors some other stuff could get pushed back. Do you think there's anything major here to get pushed back by Delta? Do you think a lot of it's we have in the fall is going to stay where it is?
I think I think the fall is going to stay where it is for the most part because I think studios are becoming more and more. I don't know if okay. How do I going to phrase this? Studios are becoming more accustomed to the idea of releasing at home streaming and in theaters at the same time simultaneously. Do I think studios and the people involved and the directors are okay with it? No, not necessarily. Do I think that they're learning that this is now a prerequisite to have any sort of profit during this climate? Yes, I think that is the case. So I think it's really interesting. Like, for instance, a movie, No Time to Die, has been delayed 5 times already. They can't afford to move that movie anymore. It was $250 million budget before its 5 reschedulings back when it was first to be released last March 2020. They don't have enough money to do a whole marketing campaign again. And you can't delay a franchise like that. It's been 6 years already since Bond came out. So I don't think there's going to be a lot more changes. I think there might be a lot more shifting of platforms. But in terms of movies being moved back an entire year, I just don't think that's going to be the case. Because
Yeah,
this is all about the money, Mike. And the more you delay it, the more you take away from the fervor around certain movies, and there's going to be less money at the box office. It's all about the money. It's the same thing with the ScarJo contract dispute as well with Disney. It always comes back down to the money.
yeah. I just say like all the delays. I feel like this fall slate is loaded compared
The
to
month
recent
of
years.
October, Mike, oh my God, it's so good. It's unbelievably good.
Yeah, I mean, basically that period we're covering basically from September through December. So I feel like that October November swing is so much more low than usually is because of all the delays. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And again, not every director is happy about it. Like Denis Villeneuve, director of Dune, he is straight up pissed that HBO Max is going to be releasing his movie on HBO Max too at the same time. But it's like it's necessary evil. I don't like it. Everyone he's saying go watch it in theaters, but more people are gonna watch it at home than in theaters. So it's a necessary evil right now. Now this evil may be in place forever, like it feels COVID might, but as of right now, I don't think it's gonna change the status quo.
All right, let's go to some specific stuff here. Let's start off with the not the big Marvel one, the two other ones, the Shang-Chi and the Eternals here. I know you're a bit of a Marvel hiatus a little bit. You started taking a nice break to get yourself back into it eventually, but which of these do you think will do better with the general audience? Because these are two very new properties to the Marvel casual.
I think between Shang-Chi and Eternals, I think Eternals is going to have more fanfare for the general public. Just because you look at the cast of this movie, unbelievable amount of recognizable names. You got Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Kamal Nanjiani, tons of individual names, right? That just star power galore. I think with Shang-Chi might have more global success just because listen, it's about an Asian hero. You're going to tackle that audience in China and they're going to make a crap ton of money. So I think in terms of the global aspect, Shang-Chi may be more popular, but within the US, it's going to be the Eternals. And I think in terms of the Marvel Universe setup, I think Eternals is more interesting because I think it's going to set up more broader and broader umbrella problems for the Marvel Universe to deal with, whether it be like the deviants or the big bad guys. But the fact is, Eternals are gods, so they're going to have a big problem on their hand, which is probably going to funnel down to the regular heroes that we're going to be dealing with within this next phase. So that's why I think Eternals is eventually going to have a lot more popularity.
Yeah, I could see that too. I also think that movie I'm intrigued by. I like Shang-Chi. I will say though, like the most fun thing I've had with Marvel lately is the What If show on Disney Plus. Like that, it's just so much fun because they really go
People
all
loved
out on
it.
some of that stuff.
Yeah, people have loved it. But I mean, I hope the Eternals is better because I think Chloe Zhao deserves as much worldwide praise as she can get. And one thing from the Eternals trailer, I wasn't a huge fan of the fact we don't know who the bad guys are. Like we know the deviants, but we didn't really get a lot from it.
Yeah.
But it looked gorgeous. It looked stunning. Like Chloe Zhao was in her element, and you could tell a skilled director is making this movie. That made me most excited for that movie. But Shang-Chi, and credit to Mike, is getting good reviews. Everyone who's seen it thus far has loved it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that one in a couple of weeks. And let's go to the musical realm as well, because musical movies are making a comeback after the Hamilton release on Disney Plus during the pandemic. In the Heights was well received. We got two coming here in the fall: Dear Evan Hansen and West Side Story. Which one do you think will do better?
I think it depends what you're looking for. I think that if you're looking for, in terms of a cultural impact, maybe word of mouth spreading around, I think it's going to be Dear Evan Hansen. If you're thinking about award prestige and maybe the fanfare from the Golden Globes and the Oscars, I think you're going to look at West Side Story. West Side Story is directed by Steven Spielberg. He gets nominated for an Oscar if he puts out a movie. It just seems like fact. And it's coming out around December, which is more around award season. So I think that's why it's going to get more of that prestige recognition. But Dear Evan Hansen, Mike, have you seen the play? Do you know anything about the play?
I have not seen it play. My mom and sister have seen it.
See, everyone who's seen the play, I'm sure they loved it. People love this play. It's insane. They love Ben Platt, who's now playing in this movie, playing the same character. He's coming back. So it's crazy. Like, I think this movie is going to have a ton of word of mouth success. And I'm more excited to see it as well because I don't know the story super well. West Side Story, you're remaking an all-time classic. It's going to really trend toward an older audience. Dear Evan Hansen has a chance to spread across a much bigger domain in terms of potential viewers.
For sure. I think excited to see how that goes. Let's go to some of the October fare now, some of the big ones here. The Sopranos prequel movie, Many Saints in Newark. I know this, when the trailer dropped, Twitter was going crazy about this movie. Are you excited for this?
I'm excited for it. I admit I have not seen The Sopranos, so hold that against me. I plan on watching it someday. I'm watching The Wire right now. I'm getting to all these old HBO shows. Give me a second. But as working at Barstool, when this trailer dropped, the next day, this is all anyone talked about. Glennie Balls was obsessed with this movie. Everyone was talking about this movie. And to be fair, it looks great. And to have Michael Gandolfini playing Tony Soprano, the younger version, like that's just cool. And this cast has a lot of recognizable faces. Like I think this movie is going to be good. It's going to be well made. Though, do you know what other movies the director Alan Taylor has made?
I do not offhand.
Terminator Genesis and Thor Dark World were the past two big motion pictures he made.
Oof.
Not great, but Alan Taylor has directed Game of Thrones. He's directed episodes of Deadwood. He directed episodes of Mad Men, and he directed episodes of The Sopranos. So he has that television prestige. Can he bring it into movie form? This is probably the best opportunity for him.
Yeah, I feel like this is more up his alley than feel like going into like an action movie like Terminator Genesis or Thor, or going to Marvel Run with Thor. I feel like this is more up his speed.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope this movie is good because people from The Sopranos, they love the show. I heard it's phenomenal. Believe it. They didn't like the ending to it. So now this is kind of a chance to have a last experience within the Sopranos universe will be this movie and the telling of the main titular character. It's a cool opportunity for the fans of the show.
Absolutely. Let's go also on to one we've talked about for 2 years in this podcast. Going back to Pop Culture Party 1 in 2019 when we did it in the Iona studio with Sam DeRosa. Like No Time to Die. The James Bond movie here. We've been delayed, you said 5 times. It should finally hit the theaters here. So do you think all of this delay is going to basically amp the hype up? We're going to be more disappointed we waited this long.
I don't think we'll be disappointed because I really do have faith this movie is going to be good. Though it's been 6 years. Like it's been 6 years since this franchise has put out a movie. It's nuts. And there's not like there's like controversy, quote unquote, around this because Daniel Craig like doesn't love playing Bond. This is his last time playing Bond. Who's going to play the next James Bond? Is the delaying of this movie delaying the search for who's going to be the next Bond? There's so many questions you can kind of go with it in terms of this movie being delayed. And it was supposed to come out March 2020, and it's just now coming out. Now it is, from what I've read, theaters only, which is one of the few movies to have a theaters only release. So it's probably going to hurt his box office a little bit because, like, I just read in Australia, no movie can be played in theaters until like November or something like that. It's crazy. Like, this is an article I just read. So it's going to hurt like the international box office, but this movie is going to be a success. I think it's going to be good. I think they should do a double screening to show Spectre before it, because who's going to remember what happened in a movie 6 years ago? It's a tall task for fans to stay engaged with the franchise, even this beloved, when there's a 6 year gap between movies, especially when franchises like Marvel and DC are putting out 2 to 3 movies a year and satiating their fans like hunger. James Bond's been 6 years. It's going to be hard to gauge people's interest.
Yeah, you're saying James Bond is having a layoff for 6 years. Imagine all those Avatar sequels about 15 years after the first one comes out.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like, it's crazy. How are you going to get people re-engaged with something that they haven't seen in such a long time? Now, James Bond's a much more iconic name than Avatar, but both, I think, share a problem, just on different scopes. That's a great point.
I mean, Avatar was like, is still the highest grossing movie of all time. Like, it was iconic, but then it kept getting delayed because technology. I don't have enough technology, and now we're at COVID issues. I mean, they were talking about, I think like 2015 was the original target. Now we're talking about like 7, 8 years after that for the next one.
Yeah, it's again, I loved Avatar when I first saw it. The opinions have gone down on it a little bit over time. I still think it's an entertaining movie, and it was scientifically groundbreaking in terms of movie technology, like you said. But Cameron has a mind of its own. He's gonna have his world. He's gonna have his world, and everyone's gonna kind of revolve around it. But listen, he's got Pandora World at Disney right now. I just got to hope that excitement transports to the movies.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the point where I'm like, okay, wake me up when it's actually in the theater, because I will not believe it actually exists till it actually gets there.
I'll believe it when the feature presentation rolls on the movie theater screen.
For sure. Let's go now. I think the movie is number one with a bullet on your list and mine for the fall here, Dune. And I mean, this is one where I'm excited to see. Is the trailer was jaw dropping when I saw it, and I remember last year we did the Halloween pop culture party. We did Mando premiere. I feel like this year Halloween pop culture party has to be the Dune review.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Mike, I'm so excited for this movie. I just started the audiobook for it too. So I'm gonna be able to finish that book, and then I'm gonna be able to go into the movie knowing what's gonna happen. I am beyond excited for this movie. The cast of this movie is insane. It looks beautiful. The trailer was gorgeous. The score was incredible. I've already asked my girlfriend if we can go midnight to this, like opening weekend. I was like, we're putting this in the calendar. We're going. And it's going, like, it is a thing that's happening in our lives. So again, beyond excited. I really say I combining this. This is a Star Wars meets Game of Thrones, like political stuff with science fiction, with like the beauty of Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. I cannot wait for this movie and how good it's going to be. I have the utmost faith in the world. This is going to be incredible. And I really have no wavering in that confidence.
Are you planning to get to an IMAX for this?
I am planning on probably going to the Alamo Drafthouse if possible for this. So that's probably what I'm planning for.
I feel like this one, like if you can get to the IMAX, like seeing it on the IMAX screen will make it so much better.
Oh, I agree with you. Again, if there's a movie I'm going to see this year more than once in theaters, this might be it. So IMAX might be in the future, but and listen, Denis Villeneuve has been like, go see this movie in theaters. Do not watch it at home because you won't have the same experience. And I believe him tenfold. Like, the scope of this movie is not meant to be viewed on anything less than a giant screen.
Okay, let's go on to some other ones.
Also, did you hear it's going to be a trilogy now, or he wants to make it a trilogy?
I heard it was a sequel. I didn't know it was to be a third one.
An article that was on Screen Rant yesterday, the day that we're recording yesterday, said that he wants to make it a trilogy with the sequel book of Dune. To make it a trilogy, because there is a direct sequel to Dune, and there's tons of other books that not only Frank Herbert wrote but his son wrote, where there's tons of lore that you could pull into a trilogy and fill it out. I don't know all the lore of Dune because what I've heard is very, very complicated, but now the plan is possibly a trilogy. It is a sequel confirmed, but now Villeneuve wants to make a trilogy.
That would be exciting. I'm definitely in for this if the first one lives up to the hype.
Oh, I'm so excited.
All right. Let's go on to now some of the like sort of sequel reboot trilogy portion of the rundown here. Ghostbusters Afterlife. I forgot this thing was actually a thing. It's coming out. Apparently, it's this. From what we get, it's mostly like kid Ghostbusters. Are you in or out on this?
I'm in on this, Mike.
Yeah,
You sound more skeptical than me. The last trailer for this
yeah,
movie kicked ass.
yeah,
It was so good.
yeah.
It seems like a dark tone, but it's blending that nostalgia line really, really well. I love the fact that the cameos in this movie don't seem to be just for fanfare, but seem to be actually supplying the story. And this trailer knocked me out of the park. I think it came out 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was falling out of my chair. I'm very, very excited for this movie now.
I don't know. I'm maybe the scar from the 2016 Ghostbusters, which just really felt
You don't
flat.
count that one. We just get rid of it. Get rid of whatever that was. It was bad. It's like Ocean's 8. You don't count that within the franchise.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly fair. Although I am curious to see like how much Murray actually cares about this one. I know in 16 he hated the script. Basically, I'm in here as a cameo, so you can kill me in 5 minutes.
Again, I think we'll see how this goes. I think this movie, I'm genuinely excited for it because the vibe of the trailer was really good. It looked like it was incredibly well made, and I think that one thing from the trailer too is there's going to be a ton of ghosts. They showed a ton of ghosts in the trailer, and ghosts from the first movie as well if you paid close attention. So I think this movie is going to be a wonderful blend of nostalgia but also originality, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm also on the Murray train. Like I just rewatched Groundhog Day the first time about like 10 years recently. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, Groundhog Day is set the standard for that genre, reliving the same day. So I think Bill Murray is maybe being a little snide with his comments about this script and stuff, because I think from what we've seen this far, it's all positive things.
For sure. Let's go to the one you're hyped about here, Top Gun Maverick. Your thoughts on this one?
Listen, Top Gun Maverick, it's the opposite of Ghostbusters Afterlife. I have fallen off on Top Gun Maverick because we have seen nothing new in like months. I forgot this movie was coming out until you put it on the sheet for me to prep for. And again, I will rewatch the trailer. The trailer was dope. The sound was incredible. The jet engines flying, the whole entire thing of Tom Cruise just being a badass. We love it. But like, we haven't seen anything new. We don't know what to be excited for anymore. We got that first trailer and then it's just been nothing since.
Yeah. You think there's something coming soon? I figure maybe around Labor Day you get something.
Yeah, I think there has to be something new coming. And to be fair, with all the new movies coming out in late September and October, we might get a ton of new trailers dropped when these new movies come out too. It might be a floodgates of cinema and previews and stuff.
Yeah, speaking of trailers, we had a couple of new ones drop, like basically a day or two before recording here, including The Matrix 4. We finally got a title for it, Matrix Resurrections. That trailer is dropped. I know you're a big Keanu guy from the John Wick franchise. Has this got you excited at all?
I'm very excited for this movie. Matrix Resurrection is staying with the R theme for the sequels. Not a ton is known about this movie. Now, the trailer dropped, but it didn't drop publicly, right? It only dropped at CinemaCon.
I think so, yeah.
CinemaCon. So there are rumors of what was in the trailer. You can go and find them if you want. If you want to be somewhat spoiled, they aren't really much in terms of what was shown, but it definitely sets a precedent for what this movie is going to be about in the big scheme of things. So in terms of a problem that Neo is dealing with. But I'm excited for this movie. Keanu Reeves is on a renaissance. This movie put him on the map for the majority of America and moviegoers in general with the first Matrix. Now he has a chance to kind of cap off his renaissance with a sequel that is worthy to the original, which is a tough task to accomplish.
I remember when the date on this was originally announced, they originally had this, I think, John Wick 4 coming out the same day, and that would have basically broken the Matrix. That Keanu would be on two different blockbusters.
Right? That would have been incredible. A double feature Keanu at the movie theater with two new movies. That would have been quite an afternoon.
Absolutely. And the last one, the new trailer here, the one that sort of broke the internet on like Monday night compared to when we're recording on Wednesday night here. So the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer finally dropped. It's been teased for months. We not get much new stuff in terms of casting. Like we obviously saw Albert Molina back as Doc Ock, but like we get a little bit of the plot of this movie. I know you were not a big fan of this trailer.
I'm not, and I'm in the minority. I think this movie is going away from what made the first two Holland Spider-Man movies so good. And I think it's really steeping into what made the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3 movie troublesome, where they're trying to fit so much into one movie, all these bad guys and characters that you want to see all at once. And then it's just the story is not as coherent as you want it to be, and it doesn't have the same magic. I'm really worried that's going to happen. Now, Marvel has fit so many more things into movies than I could expect and still made entertaining products. But just because something is entertaining doesn't mean it's a good movie. There's a difference there. And you can call me a snob, but sometimes I try and look for both. So I'm worried with this trailer. It was fanfare galore. The fans got exactly what you wanted, and that is good. I'm happy for you, but I am nervous for this trailer. I am nervous that they are straying away from what made Spider-Man, the other Spider-Man movies great, and what made Tom Holland great as Spider-Man. I'm scared.
Yeah, I mean, I want to reference here. I mean, you had like I saw a tweet you put out about this thing when we referenced how the multiverse is basically created on the fact. I'm gonna pull up your Twitter here so I can get the exact quote
True.
context of the tweet here because I thought this is actually very interesting the way you put this here. And give me a second here. I'm scrolling down your feed, and you got a lot of fun stuff here. But
It's just a lot of venting about the Red Sox, basically.
yeah, there's a lot of Red Sox venting here behind Vasquez, so on and so forth. But I can't think yeah, somewhere in the Bachelorette feed, but like I think I lost the thread here. Your basic point was, hey, like we're having the multiverse created because Spider-Man's having identity crisis.
Yeah, it's a high school boy who doesn't know what he wants to be and suddenly wants to change who he is. And that's going to lead to the multiverse because, it's not like it could have been a really cool reveal or something like that. I don't know. I thought that was a childish way to introduce something that is so huge and so massive to the entire Marvel cinematic universe, not just this phase, but phases that are going to happen after the fact. So I don't know. Listen, Marvel can convince me wrong. I love the first two Spider movies. Genuinely, they are two of my favorite Marvel movies as a whole. So I hope that they can prove me wrong, but I am skeptical going in. I also don't love the character Doctor Strange, and he's going to be in this movie a big time. He's the secondary character, if you will. So
yeah, he's filling that RDJ slot of like being like the older mentor to Peter Parker, basically.
Yeah. Maybe Doctor Strange should have a good individual movie first before he's being a mentor to Spider-Man. I don't know. Like the first Doctor Strange movie wasn't great, and now he's playing a big part. I'm skeptical, Mike. I'm skeptical. Call me skeptical. I am not going to just automatically think a Marvel movie is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna also for a second here toss out the spoiler warning because in terms of the multiverse comment here. For those of you who have not seen Loki, I mean, the show does sort of get into at the end of it, like potential creation of the multiverse. So it's interesting that like this Loki show does one thing, and Spider-Man is saying, "Oh no, it's happened because Tom Holland's Peter Parker wants to have a normal life, and not everybody know he's Spider-Man." So I feel like that's a weird sort of like confusing thing there.
Yeah, I think they're gonna tie the two in the two in somehow, which is probably the smart thing to do, which would take away my argument of basically Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Peter Parker having an identity crisis leading to the multiverse. It would take away my argument. But the thing is, this goes back to stem to the fact that I shouldn't need to do homework on 3 other Marvel shows in order to understand this movie and to understand the connection that they're going to be drawing together. That's another gripe I have with Marvel and just entertainment industry as a whole.
Yeah,
so
I think
that leads to that argument for me.
I think for me, I think the way they're doing is like saying like, oh, like, okay, you don't need to know what happened with this because like you can just blame Peter Parker for the multiverse if you don't watch Loki. Whereas you watch Loki, say, oh, this is what actually happened.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Marvel's going to try and give you an either or option in terms of understanding the story they're trying to tell. I think they're going to tie the two directly in together, and they're going to give some exposition for Loki during the movie. I'd be willing to bet if that reveal happens. Yep. But the thing is, if you watch Loki, then you'll understand, you'll have a better time. But again, you have to do homework in order to fully appreciate something, and I don't love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously that's all the ones I had. Anything else that you have coming up here you're excited about over the next couple of months?
I'll just rattle off. I've generated a quick list. Again, we're going to go into the month of October, which is going to be incredible, Michael. Incredible. We're going to start off. We'll start off with October 15th. We have Halloween Kills returns. That's very exciting. Before that, we have Malignant, which comes out in September, a new James Wan horror movie I'm excited about because it's not in the Conjuring universe. It's something new. Good for James Wan getting out of there. We have The Last Duel coming out on October 15th. Jodie Comer is on her up and up after Free Guy. Then we got Ridley Scott bringing back Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Wonderful. We got The French Dispatch, which a cast the size of a country itself. And it's a Wes Anderson movie, so it's a must-see. Last Night in Soho with Edgar Wright back behind the directing, and Anna Taylor-Joy riding her Queen's Gambit high, see if she could bring that to the silver screen. And then we have Antlers at the end of October, which is a horror movie directed by Scott Cooper, who I really like and has made some really underrated movies like Out of the Furnace and Hostiles. So tons of things are coming out in October, Mike. I cannot wait for the month of October when I have no time to watch movies because I'll be working football for Barstool Sports, but I'm going to find time as much as I can because the movie schedule in October is incredible.
And that's where HBO Max coming handy for you.
That's true. Again, not every movie is coming out on HBO Max. So I'm going to have to try and find time. There might be like work all day Saturday college football, go to movie theater Saturday night, and then return to NFL football on Sunday. And then somehow, I don't know. It's going to be bonkers, but I'm very excited for the month of October.
Absolutely. And for me, I'm trying to sort of run through, I think, my big summer rewatch for like just something old. Like, have you ever been a Twin Peaks guy? Have you ever heard of that show?
I watched the first season, liked it a lot, got to the second season, did not like it at all, and did not finish it.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there. And this, I mean, obviously, you know what you're talking about here. Like once they solve Laura Palmer's murder, then the storyline goes really out of whack for all sorts of things.
It goes crazy.
Yeah, it does.
So I heard the Showtime sequel to it, like the newer Twin Peaks, was incredible.
You would love it. I'm 4 episodes into the sequel. I think it's so entertaining, and they do so many abstract things that they do. It's not your typical like, oh, here's what's happening with X, Y, and Z. They give you this whole weird side of experimental story to follow. A lot of fun. I also recommend if you do ever go down that route, watch the movie, The Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. That ties in very tightly to the spinoff show.
I have not seen that. I did not know it was a thing. But again, I need to finish Twin Peaks. Do I need to finish Twin Peaks? I really like the first season, but the second season is just bad. Like I don't know if it's bad. It's just not comparable to the first season at all.
I think if you're gonna get into the Showtime one, you need to finish it because there's a key plot point there that will help that we will be not understand if you don't get through it.
All right. Well, maybe that's After the Wire. But After the Wire was probably going to be Succession. I don't know.
Maybe
I gotta work through these shows.
Maybe after football season.
Yeah, maybe after football season when I could take a nap.
All right, John. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, people follow on social media, keep up some of the stuff you're up to.
You can follow me on Twitter at jstanko99, or you could go to stankosstance.com where I write movie reviews and all stuff, movies, random sports, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, John. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you having me.